A very good morning and welcome to Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha. Let's start with the headlines first. Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Xi'an in China to begin his three-nation tour. Business deals worth $20 billion expected to be signed between both countries. Two Indians among 5 killed after a group of gunmen storm a guest house in Kabul. One of the attackers is also killed in 5-hour standoff. Splinter group linked to Islamic State claims responsibility for Karachi bus attack. Pak Prime Minister holds high-level security meet, vows to take strong action. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley says budget session was productive, blames Congress for delaying tactics in key reforms bills. And Rahul Gandhi to begin 2-day visit to Telangana. He will undertake a 15-kilometer Padyatra to highlight the plight of farmers. Well, our top story this morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in China's Xi'an this morning on the first leg of his three-nation tour. He will be accorded a ceremonial welcome later in the day. In an unusual departure from normal protocol, Chinese President Xi Jinping will also meet Modi in Xi'an. Top Chinese leaders almost never travel outside Beijing to meet senior foreign guests on bilateral visits. The Prime Minister's first visit to China will focus on cementing India's relationship by leveraging growing trade and economic ties. The Prime Minister touched upon Xi'an early this morning. He's on a three-nation tour and 3-day visit to China. It's also being seen as a reciprocal visit by Narendra Modi to President Xi Jinping's visit last year to India. On the first leg of his tour, he arrived in Xi'an this morning, which also happens to be the native place of President Xi Jinping. In a departure from protocol, the Chinese president is going to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Xi'an. In fact, let's go across to our correspondent Frank Pereira, who joins us from Beijing. Frank, the Prime Minister touched upon Xi'an early this morning. If you have details on what kind of reception the Prime Minister got, share it with us.
Well, the Prime Minister was accorded a very warm welcome by the President of China himself. Xi Jinping was present there when he welcomed Prime Minister Narendra Modi into Xi'an. Let's not forget, this is a reciprocal visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He's basically giving back what Xi Jinping had done in Gujarat about 8 months ago. So as far as the agenda for Xi'an is concerned, the Prime Minister will be visiting an age-old Buddhist temple, and there will be a few talks there as well, but apart from that, there is no real agreement signing or anything on that front that will take place in Xi'an. The major bilateral talks and also the MOUs and agreements will be signed in Beijing, which will be tomorrow. The Prime Minister is expected to arrive in Beijing later tonight at around 11 p.m. His flight will be touching down in Beijing, after which there is nothing lined up for today as such in Beijing, but the real, tomorrow seems to be a jam-packed day as far as the Prime Minister is concerned. It's going to be hectic parlays between the two countries, and there are several agreements that are to be signed tomorrow, and that will be the order of business as far as tomorrow is concerned, Tina.
Right. Frank, also the government has termed it a business-to-business summit, or the B2B summit. Does it mean that contentious issues like the border dispute, which has been like the most festering thing between both countries, also the stapled visa issue, does it mean that the government is not going to take it up with China?
Well, the government could take it up with China, but the message here, as far as the Chinese are concerned, and some of the journalists here who've been covering the affairs, basically have been saying that the border issue could be on the back burner and it could not be raised, or it might not take any kind of a framework as far as that issue is concerned. But the focus really is going to be on economic ties, trade, and how India and China can boost that and take it to the next level. So that That's the real key focus areas, and that's what the people are looking at as far as the traders and the economic community in both countries are concerned. There is a lot of pressure from them, and India and China are working towards enhancing their trade and economic ties. Tina.
All right, Frank, thank you so much for joining us with those details. We'll keep coming back to you over the next 3 days in our subsequent bulletins. Meanwhile, let's take a look at this report telling us about how the Prime Minister received a ceremonial reception early this morning when he arrived in Xi'an.
मुझे विश्वास है कि चीन की मेरी ये यात्रा भारत और चीन के संबंधों को ही आगे बढ़ाएगी ऐसा नहीं, लेकिन पूरे एशिया को और दुनिया के सभी डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज के लिए एक नया सीमा चिन्ह बनेगा.
From Xi'an, Modi will fly to Beijing, where he will hold extensive talks with Premier Li Keqiang on bilateral ties. While trade and economic ties are likely to take center stage, there are hopes that the two leaders will have threadbare discussions on the border issue.
You may expect that a full range of political issues would be discussed, bilateral ties, regional issues, multilateral issues. Not just political matters, but economic issues will also come up.
Border issue is very sensitive issue, and whatever Chinese opinion is there, it is their opinion. But what is going to be the outcome of Modi's visit to China? That is what we are waiting for.
Prime Minister should take up the economic scientific cooperation between our two countries. After all, we are two neighboring countries. Not only neighboring countries, we are two very fast growing economies.
On the last day of his China visit, that is on 16th of May, Modi will meet top CEOs of Chinese firms and address a business gathering. Indian and Chinese private companies are expected to sign business deals worth $20 billion.
A lot of Indian companies are finding barriers in doing business in China. So this market access issue, we would wish the Prime Minister to take up so that these issues are resolved.
While serious differences continue to prevail on the border issue, both sides are making efforts to ensure that peace and tranquility prevails. The two nations are also cooperating in BRICS summit. It is hoped that Modi's visit will not only bring the two governments closer, but will also help build people-to-people interactions. With inputs from Akhilesh Suman in Delhi and Amrita Raya in Xi'an, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's now go across to Professor Alka Acharya, Director at the Institute of Chinese Studies. A very good morning, ma'am, and welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. This three-day visit by the Prime Minister looks very heavy on agenda when it comes to be it in terms of trade, business, cultural diplomacy, or people-to-people connect. How do you view this? Do you think it's enough to bridge the trust deficit between both countries, the age-old trust deficit between both countries?
Good morning. You started off by saying heavy agenda, so many things, business, politics, people to people, culture, and then you come back to this point about age-old trust deficit. This is one thing I think we need to address squarely, that Sino-Indian relations today have acquired a very complex, comprehensive and multidimensional character. The boundary dispute is a core issue, certainly, but it has not prevented this relationship from expanding and deepening, and now Mr. Modi appears set to take this to the next level, where the economic interaction, mutual investments in contribution in India's developmental agenda, this is going to take off in a big way. And I think we need to realize, if we take an objective view, that this is a very, very significant relationship. And I was very delighted to note that Mr. Modi is addressing Asia, because he knows that when he meets China, the world's eyes certainly are on him and Xi Jinping and his meetings with Li Keqiang and so on. But Asia will be watching most keenly, because for them, this relationship, whether it goes in a positive direction or whether it does not take off very well, will be a key question for their own future interactions with these two rising giants of Asia.
Also, Narendra Modi keeps mentioning that the 21st century is about the Asian century, particularly India and China. How much of it do you think it's converting into reality?
I think we are already seeing a very significant shift in the way the economic dynamics of Asia particularly are turning. China so far had been an engine of a growth of a different kind, in the sense that it had been the manufacturing factory of the world, it had been exporting all over, and thereby building up its own reserves and becoming such a dominant presence in the global economy. Now the rate of economic growth in China is slowing, but India has started to pick up. Expectations are that if we can get the Make in agenda right, if we can get our act together as far as our manufacturing capabilities are concerned, we will now be poised to take on the kind of role that China had done. China is shifting its industries out, manufacturing out. So I think what we are seeing is, between India and China, once again, the economic dynamism is going to be sort of interacting in newer ways. So I have no reason to doubt that Mr. Modi is very, very seized of this opportunity for India, and China plays a big role in the way we can exploit this opportunity.
Right. And like his previous foreign visits, the Prime Minister again stresses on the business-to-business summit, as he refers to it. What kind of agreements and how much of investment can we expect from China?
Well, they've already announced 20 billion, and the Chinese would like to invest more. So clearly this is going to be the top priority. It's interesting that Mr. Modi chose to cap his year-long intense engagement with the major powers of the world with the China visit. It also shows that there has been some degree of thought that has been going on, although it must be admitted that not much of statements have come out which would give us an idea as to how he is assessing China strategically in an overall sense within his foreign policy. But it's quite clear that for him, the Indian developmental agenda is of primary importance, and his engagements with all the powers simultaneously, with no question of not trying to block or trying to block this or that, he's opening up, and he's recognizing that China will be a crucial factor in his calculations.
Right, Professor Acharya, many thanks for joining us this morning and giving us those details. So a crucial visit by the Prime Minister. In the next 3 days, we'll have to keep an eye on how fruitful this visit is going to turn out both for India and China. Meanwhile, in another big story of the day, 2 Indians are among 5 people killed after a group of gunmen stormed a guest house in Kabul on Wednesday. The 5-hour standoff ended with at least one of the attackers killed. The attack took place during Taliban's spring offensive against the Afghan government. However, no group has claimed responsibility of the attack so far. A group of gunmen stormed a guest house in Kabul last night. They took around 50 hostages, including several foreigners who were present inside the building. The Indian embassy in Kabul said at least 5 Indians were among those caught in the crossfire between the gunmen and the security forces. The siege ended after about 5 hours, leaving 5 foreigners, including 2 Indians, dead. The other 3 Indians were rescued after the operation. At least one attacker was also killed. The brutal assault was reminiscent of 2 attacks by Taliban fighters in Kabul last year, in which 30 people were killed. No one has claimed responsibility for yesterday's attack so far. A probe has been launched by the authorities.
تحقیقات ما دایر استاد تیمای تحقیقاتی ما کار میکنه که ما اصلا سر این موضوع کار کنیم، چون این عمله نبود که بالای دروازه هتل شده باشه یا پیردارا را زده باشه، داخل شده باشه. هر گپی که بوده از داخل هتل شروع شده.
The attack comes a day after a visit to Kabul by Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who was sure of Islamabad's full support in Afghan government's battle against the Taliban. The group has stepped up attacks since they announced their spring offensive last month, after most foreign forces pulled out at the end of last year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Meanwhile, Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif chaired an emergency security meeting after a gunman attacked a bus in Karachi yesterday, killing 45 people. Condemning the brutal attack, Sharif blamed the gunman of trying to derail his government's economic development agenda. A splinter group linked to the Islamic State claimed responsibility of the attack.
A day after the bus attack in Karachi, Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif met the families of the victims. He vowed to take strong action against the perpetrators.
ये यकीनन पाकिस्तान में इंतशार फैलाने की एक मज़मूम कोशिश है और एक दूसरे को लड़ाने की मज़मूम कोशिश है. ऐसे तबकों को भी बीच में मुलव्विस किया जा रहा है जो कभी भी आज तक कंट्रोवर्शियल नहीं थे.
Sharif held a high-level security meeting after the attack. The security meeting was attended by Army Chief General Raheel Sharif, Director General of Pakistan's premier intelligence agency ISI Rizwan Akhtar, and other high-level civil and defence officials. Sharif said the commercial hub of Pakistan was on the terrorist agenda to curtail the economic progress of the country.
होल मिले हैं मुख्तलिफ वेपन्स के, मल्टीपल वेपन्स है, कोई किसी एक वेपन से फायरिंग नहीं की गई है और यहाँ मौके से क्राइम सीन से भी अभी एक झाड़ियों से होल मिला है. अभी फिलहाल हम फोरेंसिक्स के लिए और क्राइम सीन के हवाले से काम कर रहे हैं.
The attack was claimed to have been the work of a splinter group called Jundullah. The group also vows allegiance to the Islamic State. They have threatened more such attacks against Ismailis, Shias and Christians. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for us to slip into a very short break, but coming up next, as the budget session of Parliament wraps up, a quick look at the gains and unfinished business for the Modi government. Details when we return.
Evacuation from war-ravaged Yemen against massive odds. Operation Rahat executed to perfection.
नेवी वालों ने और शिप वालों ने बांग्लादेशी और इंडोनेशियन लोगों को भी लेके आए हमारे साथ. We are feeling really very lax and we are very thankful to the government.
The emotional homecoming and global appreciation for India's initiative.
Very appreciated, very well treated and looked after.
I absolutely can't say enough about the Indian government for helping us to get out of Yemen.
Watch our special report, Yemen, the Great Escape, on Thursday and Friday on Rajya Sabha Television.
Welcome back. You're watching Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. Let's now take a look at the important events lined up for today in our segment, The Day Ahead. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi will begin his two-day visit to Telangana today. He is scheduled to undertake a 15-kilometer Padyatra through the villages of Adilabad district in Telangana, meeting beleaguered farmers and highlighting their plight. He is also likely to meet families of farmers who committed suicide due to financial crisis. Rahul is travelling to Telangana just days after his trip to Maharashtra and Punjab. The government will hold a stakeholder meeting today on foreign direct investment in e-commerce retailing. Commerce Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will chair the meet, which will see the participation of industry chambers, CII and FICCI, along with major domestic e-commerce companies such as Flipkart and Snapdeal. As of now, India allows 100% FDI in B2B e-commerce activities, but foreign investment is not allowed in B2C e-commerce companies. Home Minister Rajnath Singh will be in Nagpur today to review the anti-Naxal operations in the eastern Vidarbha region. He will hold a meeting with the Maharashtra Chief Secretary along with the IGP of Nagpur. Several other top officials and superintendents of police of the Naxal-hit districts like Gadchiroli, Bhandara and Gondia will also be present at the meet. The Supreme Court is likely to hear the Sahara case today. In its previous hearing, the Sahara Group said it was ready to fulfill the court-mandated condition of furnishing 10,000 crore rupees to secure the release of its chief, Subrata Roy. The group had sought 1 week's time to furnish a bank guarantee, and approval by the Supreme Court bench can be expected if the group fulfills the court-mandated condition. But despite key bills getting referred to House panels, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley termed the budget session as a productive one. He named the bill on black money as one of the biggest achievements for the government in the last session. However, he regretted that the key reform bills on tax reforms and land acquisition were referred to two separate committees. He blamed the Congress for adopting a delaying tactic. According to Jaitley, the target of rolling out GST by April next year will be a huge challenge.
(2013) के कानून के तहत सिंचाई योजनाएं नहीं हो सकती, हाउसिंग फॉर पुअर नहीं हो सकता, रूरल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं हो सकता, ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में जो इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर्स बनाने हैं जिसमें रोजगार की सुविधा और अवसर मिले वो नहीं हो सकते, वो केवल इन संशोधनों के बाद होंगे। अब ये जो रास्ता हम लोगों ने अपनाया है कि जिसमें जॉइंट कमेटी को ये गया है, अब जॉइंट कमेटी अपनी रिकमेंडेशन दे और जॉइंट कमेटी इज ऑलवेज रिपोर्टेड टू द हाउस। मुझे नहीं लगता कि लोकसभा में इसको पारित करने में कोई डिफिकल्टी आएगी। उसके बाद राज्यसभा में जाएगा और राज्यसभा में जाने के बाद मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि अगर कमेटी रिकमेंडेशन देती है तो सभी दल उसको स्वीकार करेंगे। एंड देयरफॉर एवरीबॉडी मस्ट रियलाइज that GST is not a political agenda. GST today is a national agenda. And if it is going to create India into one unified market, have free flow of goods and services, is going to facilitate free trade in this country, going to improve the revenues of the state, going to improve the revenues of the center, improve India's GDP, then nobody should get a thrill in delaying GST. And therefore, we must pass it come what may in July.
Let's now get you some other national news and updates in Nationwide. In a big concession to civil service aspirants from non-English and humanities background, the government has amended the rules to make the controversial aptitude test only a qualifying paper. Students now need to clear the CSAT paper with only 33% marks. In the mains exam, the minimum qualifying score for the Indian language paper has been reduced from 30% to 25%. The twin concessions come in the wake of a sustained campaign by partisans of Hindi and other regional languages who accused UPSC of an elitist bias. The Delhi government is set to comply with the Supreme Court order banning use of images of all ministers and chief ministers in government ads. All hoardings of Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal and other Aam Aadmi Party leaders across the city will be brought down. On Wednesday, the Supreme Court ordered a blanket ban on the use of pictures of politicians on government ads, barring those of the Prime Minister, President and the Chief Justice of India. An inquiry commission headed by a retired Supreme Court judge will probe the alleged irregularities in the land deals between Robert Vadra and the Haryana government. A notification is likely to be issued after the BJP state executive meeting today. The BJP made the land deals of the previous Congress government a major poll issue during the state assembly polls last year. Now, the death toll in Nepal and India from the latest quake has crossed 100. Since Tuesday, Nepal and northern states in India have been jolted by several aftershocks. As rescue and relief operations resumed, people braved the cold, spending sleepless nights in the open.
13 aftershocks jolted Nepal on Wednesday, a day after a second powerful 7.3 magnitude earthquake hit the Himalayan kingdom. 79 people have been killed in the latest tremors. The number of injured has reached 2,300.
Let's hope for the best. Yes, they are searching for the rest. If they find the survivors, then that will be good.
This amateur video shows landslides triggered by the latest round of quakes. This meant that roads to remote villages in several areas have been blocked.
हामीले पसलहरु खोलेर बसेका थियौं, हाम्रो गेस्ट हाउस पनि खोलेको थियो, यी पसलहरु पनि खोलेको थियो। जो 1250 मा भुइँचालो आयो, त्यतिखेर यो घर चाहिँ एकैचोटी हैन झरलम्मै यहाँ बाटोमा बस्यो। बाटोमा बस्दाखेरि यहाँ धेरै भागदौड मचियो।
Thousands spent the night in the open under plastic tents, barely shielding them from the cold. Back in India, the toll in the tremors which jolted Bihar on Tuesday rose to 21. 84 people have been reported injured. 7 aftershocks of mild intensity were recorded on Wednesday. The NDRF and State Disaster Response Force teams are in affected districts to carry out rescue and relief operations. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, NATO foreign ministers gathered in Turkey for talks focusing on the fight against the Islamic State and the ongoing Ukraine crisis. NATO called for full implementation of the Minsk agreement for any forward movement in the Ukraine conflict. All sides agreed that the ceasefire was more fragile than ever. NATO and Ukraine also voiced concerns about Russia's statements on the possible future stationing of nuclear weapons in Crimea. The meeting comes just a day after US Secretary of State John Kerry held talks with Russian leaders to ease out the differences. NATO has also decided to keep its troops in Afghanistan even after its current training mission ends. The Afghan forces have been struggling to repel the Taliban offensive. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has suggested that the United States, which provides most of the foreign troops still in Afghanistan, might want to re-examine its deadline to withdraw by the end of 2016.
All parties bear responsibility to ensure full implementation. Russia has a significant responsibility in this regard. We call on Russia to stop its deliberate destabilization of eastern Ukraine, end its support for the separatists, withdraw its forces and military equipment from Ukraine and along its borders, and fully support a political solution.
I want just to quote one simple phrase, one simple message launched by one of the ministers and many times reiterated in this meeting. If Ukraine fails, we...
And now let's get you all the sports news in SportsBeat. Juventus will face Barcelona in the Champions League final next month. The Italian club defeated Real Madrid 3-2 on aggregate. The second leg of the semi-final ended in a 1-1 draw after Cristiano Ronaldo's first half penalty was equalized by Alvaro Morata in the 57th minute of the game. Swiss world number 2 Roger Federer defeated Uruguay's Pablo Cuevas 7-6, 6-4 in the second round of the Italian Open in Rome on Wednesday. Federer comfortably avoided a repeat of his second round exit in Rome last year as he booked his place in the last 16. Federer will now play against South African Kevin Anderson. The members of the US men's 4x200 meters relay team that won silver at the 2012 Olympics have been stripped of their medal following the doping conviction of sprinter Tyson Gay. IOC notified US Olympic Committee that the 4x200 meter relay team had been disqualified and all its medals have been withdrawn. Trell Kimmonts, Justin Gatlin and Ryan Bailey, as well as Jeffrey Dems and Darius Patton will lose their medals after Gay was banned last year following a positive test for an anabolic steroid. Well, that's it from us this morning. Have a nice day.